On the 17th of August 2008, a student shows up to school wearing a mask strangely resembling that of Slipknot's lead singer. He made it himself. He's carrying a samurai sword in a sports bag. He brought his sword from home. With his fingers painted black, he targets a seemingly random student, calling out his name before beheading him in front of a group of kids. But the craziest thing about this matter is that the killer blamed Slipknot and said that their music brainwashed him. Strangely enough, this is not the first time that this has happened. There have been different cases of violent acts and where the fingers have been pointed squarely at the artist, stating that their lyrics or the message their music stands for has hypnotized impressionable minds to commit the most heinous acts imaginable. But can any of this even be true? Let's have a look at our first case, the Columbine killing. On the 20th of April 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold walked into their high school in Colorado, carrying shotguns and automatic rifles. The two friends had a hatred for humanity. Journals were later discovered where they wrote about wanting to take revenge on those that wronged them, and their school seemed to be a perfect location to do exactly that. They began their assault at 11:19 a.m. when their bomb in the school cafeteria failed to detonate. Outside of the school's west entrance, they shot several students, and two who were sat in a field. The pair then entered the building where they killed the student outside of a library entrance before continuing their rampage. The most horrific part of the attack occurred in the library, where they killed 10 students and wounded 12 others in just 7 minutes. After wandering the school, throwing explosives into different classrooms, and trying to reignite the bomb in the cafeteria, the two returned to the library. At 12:08 p.m., after exchanging gunfire with police outside, Harris and Klebold ended their lives with gunshot wounds. In total, they killed 13 people and injured 24 others before the massacre ended. After the killings, motives were obviously searched for. In the wake of the Columbine killings, media outlets quickly began to link the tragedy to various forms of popular culture, with Marilyn Manson's music being one of its primary targets. The media claimed that Eric and Dylan were huge fans of Marilyn Manson, and that his dark, violent lyrics might have influenced their actions. This narrative gained significant traction, despite there being no evidence to suggest that the killers were fans of Manson or that his music had any direct influence on their behavior at all. Marilyn just seemed to be the right person at the wrong time, and the media just wanted somebody to blame. Manson's music, which often included themes of rebellion, alienation, and violence, fit the media's narrative of blaming violent culture for the tragedy. But as we know, the Columbine tragedy's cause is a much deeper and much more complex explanation. Our next case takes place in 2008 at a seemingly normal high school in Krugersdorp, South Africa. Mornay Harmser was a quiet kid, a bit of an outsider who dabbled in the occult and shared a sense of alienation with a small group of friends. One thing they all had in common was a fascination with the Columbine killings. Mornay and his friends were obsessed with Eric and Dylan, feeling envious of the legacy that they had left behind, though it was, of course, a horrific one. As their graduation neared, the four friends spent weeks discussing how they too could be remembered after they left school, and they felt that the best way to leave their mark on the world was through violence. On the morning of the 17th of August, Mornay walked to school with his face painted black. He was carrying a handmade mask that looked exactly like Corey Taylor's, the lead singer of Slipknot. The four friends met up outside the school gates, but when the time came to carry out their plan, 3 of them backed out. They dismissed it all as talk, thinking that it would never go that far. Mornay, however, was determined to go through with it. Frustrated that his friends hadn't brought the homemade bomb or revolver that they had promised, Mornay turned to them and said, "Fine, if you won't do it, watch this." He put on his mask, pulled out a 60-centimeter samurai katana from his sports bag, and without hesitation walked up to the first person he saw, raising the sword and striking 17-year-old Jacques Pretorius in the neck. The victim was instantly beheaded. Mornay walked further into the school, slashing at another student, 17-year-old Stefan Bauer, before attacking 2 groundskeepers who tried to intervene. Covered in blood, Mornay felt that he had done enough. so he sat on a short brick wall, stabbing the samurai sword into the ground. When the police arrived, he was arrested without incident, and he was obviously sent for a variety of different psychiatric tests to determine what caused this. And when he was being interviewed, he blamed Slipknot. He said that their music brainwashed him, and that when he listened to them, he felt like he was leaving his body and becoming another person. Just like the Columbine, he pointed towards violent music as the catalyst for his evil actions. After the media quickly linked Mornay's actions to Slipknot, especially due to his mask resembling Corey Taylor's. In addition, investigators found satanic spellbooks and Ouija boards in his room, which fueled the media's narrative that his actions were inspired by dark music and occult practices. This fed into the satanic panic of the time, painting the as a direct result of Slipknot's influences, and a perfect example of rock music's supposed link to violence, and just downright terrible behavior. Slipknot, however, swiftly rejected this narrative. Corey Taylor said that the band made it clear that their music was meant to help fans express anger, not incite violence. They pointed out that Mornay's motivations were much more complex, stemming from personal struggles and an obsession with the Columbine. Despite the media's focus on music and occult influences, the real reason behind the tragedy were rooted in deeper psychological issues, which the media largely overlooked. And finally, I want to talk about the craziest case of them all. In 1985, two young men, Raymond Belknap and James Vance, entered a churchyard in Reno, Nevada with a shotgun. After spending the day drinking and listening to Judas Priest's Stained Class album, the two friends made a chilling pact to end. Belknap fatally and Vance followed but survived with severe facial injuries, passing away 3 years later from complications related to the incident. The boys' families actually filed a lawsuit against Judas Priest in 1989, stating that the subliminal messaging in their music pushed the boys to act. They argued that hidden phrases like "do it," supposedly heard when the song "Better by You, Better Than Me" was played backwards, acted as a psychological trigger. The case garnered massive media attention, turning into a debate about music's influence on impressionable minds. Lead vocalist Rob Halford testified in court, passionately denying the existence of subliminal messages, pointing out that no band would encourage its fans to harm them. As Halford said, if we wanted to send out subliminal messages, they'd be buy more records. Ultimately, the court found no credible evidence to support the claim and ruled in favor of Judas Priest. Art, music, and the psychological impact that it has on the mind is quite hard to determine and pinpoint. Is there a case for behavioral changes through music? I think so. But is it enough of a case to justify? In my opinion, no. But what do you think? Can music really change the way that you think? Can music really change the way that you behave to the point of something so violent?